Occasionally, I'll teach a workshop or attend a big book study or work with a sponsee, and the topic of fear will arise. And invariably, someone always asks, well, Derek, isn't some fear healthy? I used to believe so. I used to think, well, fear is the thing that has you run out of a building when it's on fire. Fear is the thing that has you running from a bear when it's chasing you. Fear is the thing that has you jump out of the way of moving traffic. Well, no. Those things are instinct. The survival instinct to run from a bear, which, by the way, is not the way to survive a bear attack, or to step out of the way of moving traffic. Let me ask you a question. If the force that gets me to jump out of the way of oncoming traffic is fear, then what's the force that keeps the deer paralyzed? See, we have to have different terms to describe these different phenomena. Fear, phobia, instinct. Three different things. Fear of the dark, fear of falling, fear of heights, fear of spiders? No. Those are phobias. So what about fear? Well, fear is described by the Big Book as an evil and corroding thread. It's also described as setting in motion trains of circumstances which bring misfortune. The Big Book authors clearly state that they think it ought to be classed with stealing because it causes more trouble. And then they tell us that fear is a result of self-reliance failing us. Fear is a result of failure. Then we're instructed to ask God to remove our fear. And then the Big Book tells us at once we commence to outgrow fear, to make reference to the big book, perfect love casts out fear. Let me ask you a question. Is perfect love going to cast out anything that's good for us? Are we going to outgrow something that's good for us? Are we going to ask God to remove something that's good for us? So it's very clear that fear isn't good for us. It's not healthy. It's not something we want to keep. It's not something that we want to have. By the way, the most powerful prayer I have is the fear prayer. God, please remove my fear and direct my attention to what you would have me be. And oftentimes it feels like saying something to God like, God, I'm scared of losing this job. Please remove my fear of losing this job. Well, that just sounds like I'm giving God permission to do it. Just kind of ridiculous if you think about that. But oftentimes I'll sit down with someone and they'll say something like, my dad's sick and I'm scared I'm losing him. Well, have you prayed for that fear to be removed? Well, no, I feel like that would be a selfish prayer, and so I'm just praying for him to get better. Okay, so you're praying for God to keep someone around that you want to have around versus asking God to remove the fear that's going to stand in the way of you being useful to other people. Which one's selfish? It's never selfish to ask for our own fear to be removed. It is selfish if we're asking for results.